savor, delight, and take pleasure in life with the spouse you love every day. Make the most of each one. Here on the line with me this morning is Graham Schnell, CEO of Focus on the Family Africa. Graham, good morning. Let everybody hear your voice so they can say, hey, that's the guy that does Focus on the Family here in the mornings.
Good morning, Brad. It's really great to be with you.
It's nice to hang out with you as well. I love the theme for this year's Marriage Week here in SA, Unbreakable. Living in a time where I think people are very happy to move on from something very quickly to get to something new. We really do need, by God's grace, to have this kind of marriage, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a powerful theme, and the heart is certainly not to bring condemnation. We understand that there are a lot of marriages or people that have been through brokenness, and it's not always possible. But the design for marriage in God's plan A is that this is a lifelong union between one man and one woman. And unfortunately, I think as the culture kind of continues to slide, the invent of no fault divorce. It's just so easy to say, well, we're just not getting along like we used to, and let's just call it quits.
Yeah.
And so we want to uplift this idea that marriage is something that's meant to be lifelong. And sometimes it requires a little bit of pushing through. It requires a level of commitment that I think sometimes in this modern age we haven't fully embraced. You know, there was a Spanish explorer that went across from Spain to South America after Aztec gold, but he went with a big expedition. His name was Cortez. And when he got there, it had already been a very difficult journey, and they'd lost some people, and so some of the guys were saying, I think this is just not worth it. Let's go home.
Yeah.
And he did something very bold. He burnt the ships that they had come across on. And you've heard probably that expression. There's some songs about it.
Yeah.
Burn the ships. And it's just this idea that there is no exit strategy. There is no going back. The only way is forward together. And that's the heart that we want to bring across with this theme of unbreakable.
Yeah, I love that. Graham, what are some of the habits? Because really we've learned now with all the books that are out and some of the things that we're getting to learn every day, the habits that we repeat every single day is what builds consistency and builds to success. But we need to, of course, have habits that we repeat over and over again for a healthy marriage. What are some of those habits?
Yeah, I think one of the key ones is selflessness. I think it's waking up every day saying, how can I outserve my spouse
Yeah.
today? And that would be a phenomenal habit, because the truth is we're all, because of the fall of man, we all have this selfish streak in us. And so we sometimes really want to believe that it's all about me. But if we can have that other centeredness, that other focus, that's a habit to cultivate. Communication is another one. When we do marriage events around the country, we always do a little survey, and we ask the question, what are the biggest challenges? And so often right at the top is this idea of communication. But it's not just the communication around budgets and to-do lists and who's picking so-and-so up from ballet and sport. It's that deeper level communication. Amazing research by a woman. She followed about 300 couples over about 30 years. And she looked at not the marriages that were breaking down and struggling, but she looked at the cream of the crop, those marriages that were really thriving, and what it was that they were doing. And one of the key things she discovered is they were having 10 minutes a day of this kind of heart-to-heart communication. So that's a really powerful habit to introduce. But I'd say probably the biggest thing is when we do marriage retreats, we ask the question, actually, what do you think is the secret to a great marriage? And people will shout out things like communication, intimacy, fellowship, fun, passion, laughter. And all of those things are good. But what we say is, if something else is missing, those things don't take place. And that something else is two open hearts.
Yeah.
My heart open to my spouse, and my spouse's heart open to me. And that only happens when there's an atmosphere of safety and security in the relationship. And so the habit that I would say is the most important to really work on is, how do I make my marriage feel like the safest place on earth for my spouse? How do I create that environment? And there's lots of other ways that you can do that, but I think that's a habit that we've got to work hard at to keep our marriage thriving.
Yeah, you've got to almost start off and say, well, you've got to want to. I mean, if you don't want to, that's where the problems come in.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to want to as a first step.
Totally, totally. Yeah.
Mm,
So it's that attitude at the very start to say, I want to have a thriving marriage and
mm,
I'm willing to put the effort in. Sometimes I'm so nervous about saying, hard work and because sometimes I think marriage gets a bad rap
mm-hmm,
because we're always talking about it's hard work and it's, commitment and grit your teeth and hang on. But and there's some aspects where that's necessary,
mm,
but actually God gave marriage to us as a beautiful gift. But with it, with intentionality, we really can enjoy a flourishing marriage. But it's always still going to be built on that idea of selflessness and that idea of wanting to have a marriage based
mm-hmm.
on really pursuing your spouse's interests and needs. It's biblical,
Yeah.
it's in the Bible. Not only your own interests, but also the interests of others. That's the heart behind the gospel, really.
Graham, you touched on you've said marriage events there. I mean, there are a lot of these things happening in churches and other organizations. And I think a lot of people say, oh, do we need to go to those? I mean, there's lots of resources on the internet. We can read a book together, but it feels like we need to do more, and meeting together is a great way to build into relationships.
Absolutely. I mean, all of those things are good. I think just being intentional is the primary thing. It's saying, recognizing first of all that marriage, you can't put your marriage on cruise control. There's no such thing as just hit that cruise control button and think
Mm,
that you're going to be all good. Anything actually in life, if you just leave it, it moves from order to chaos. If you leave your car in the driveway and you don't service it and you don't look after it, it will rust and fall apart. Same with a building. And
mm,
marriage is the same. We've got to make an investment into our marriage. So reading books together, doing stuff online. But I agree with you. Going out and being together. There's something about the community and recognizing that we're all facing challenges. And you look across and you see someone shedding a tear and they've also got some struggles,
yeah.
and you hear an amen from somebody who's resonating with the point, and you go, we're not alone in this. So often what we find when we do events, and we do this another part of the survey, we want people to come away feeling like they're not alone, whether it's marriage or parenting. Sometimes people they carry this weight of guilt and shame, and they think that they're the only ones in it. But if they come to these events and see the community, they come away feeling like, okay, we're not alone,
Mm.
but we're also taking steps towards and the improvement that we're looking for.
Yeah, I love that. There's a lot happening around Marriage Week here in SA, and there are lots of resources available. How can people listening right now saying, well, we'd like to start somewhere? Yes, we'd like to ultimately be in a group like Graham's just spoken about, but where can we start? We need to do something. What would you recommend, Graham?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're at the tail end of Marriage Week now in terms of the resources that we're sending out on a daily basis, but I'm pretty sure they'll still be available. So this good starting point is to go to the SA Marriage Week website, and it's just samarriageweek.co.za, and sign up there and get access to content that's going to be sent out on a daily basis, and it's really just a commitment
Mm.
to say, hey, we can spend 10 minutes. We watch a short video. They're like 3-4 minutes, and then just have a conversation. It's that 10 minute a day that I was speaking about earlier,
Mm.
but it's a great excuse to get started. When I say excuse, that sounds bad, but sometimes we just get into a rut. And
Yeah.
here we've got one week in the year that's called Marriage Week, and we can say to our spouse, "Hey, let's give this a bash. Let's do this." That's a great start. There's churches around the country holding marriage events. But then also, I'd encourage you to get onto the Focus on the Family website. It's safamily.co.za, and keep in touch with events that are happening on a regular basis, other content that you can access, and certainly get plugged into a local church. Because churches are a fantastic way to find another couple that may be a mentor couple to
Mm.
you, or for you to be a mentor couple to somebody else. Just doesn't That's not a big formal thing, but it's just someone who can journey with you, that's had a few more years and some experience, that can speak into your marriage, and you can do the same for somebody else.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Graham, particularly when you have your first child and you speak to someone who's got kids and they're older. Just to hear from somebody else, things will actually improve. You're not going to change nappies for the rest of your life and have zero sleep and never shower. You just need someone to
Yeah,
remind you it's going to
exactly.
be
It,
okay.
it feels like that in those days. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, that's why, as you say, community, it's so powerful. And it's a beautiful thing, particularly around marriage as well.
Yeah, I'm going to grab an extra moment because I can. Just want to say the importance of your faith and a relationship with Jesus as a foundation for a marriage. I think that's a really strong way for us to wrap up our conversation, Graham. Just the importance of that faith and that spiritual connection to being able to have the kind of marriage that is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's vital. I don't know how couples do it without Jesus, to be
Hmm.
honest. But it creates that commonality, that foundation. And there's something about spiritual intimacy that is so powerful. It connects with even physical intimacy. But when a couple can pray together, when a couple can just be invested in their relationship with God
Mm.
together, that brings a level to the relationship that I think is impossible without it. And then obviously just relying on God and then being used by God. The other thing about marriage is, again, part of God's design is bringing two people together that can accomplish something for His kingdom that those two individuals couldn't accomplish on their own. And so seeing marriage as that, this isn't just about, hey, I've always wanted a spouse to meet my needs. And there's an aspect of that, I
Mm.
get that, but actually seeing marriage as something of a kingdom expression of what God can do through this marriage that can actually impact the world around me. And so, yeah, 100% agree that foundation of faith is absolutely vital.
That's the voice of Graham Schnell. He's the CEO of Focus on the Family Africa, and I might be greeting him now, but in a few minutes' time, just as we sign off with the program, you'll hear him again on Focus on the Family. So a well-known voice, and certainly a trusted one, and a trusted organization is Focus on the Family. Thanks so much, Graham, for your time this morning. Thanks for the work you guys are doing behind the scenes, not only during Marriage Week, but 7 days a week, 12 months a year, 365 days. So appreciate that, and thanks for all of the resources that we can use.
It's our absolute pleasure and privilege. It's a joy. And